The Chinese people have embarked on the path of independent development and peace, a path which offers mutual benefits and common prosperity.
Chinese President Xi Jinping travels to Serbia, Poland and Uzbekistan in an effort to expand China's One Belt, One Road initiative. Hello, I'm Anand Naidu in Washington, D.C., and this is The Heat. Chinese President Xi Jinping is now in Tashkent, Uzbekistan, after meeting with leaders in Serbia and Poland. The Chinese President and Serbian Prime Minister Alexander Vučić signed more than 20 finance and infrastructure deals in Belgrade. Beijing has been participating in a number of projects in the region, including a new rail link between Belgrade and Hungary's capital Budapest, hoping to transport Chinese goods into Central and Eastern Europe. President Xi Jinping also met with employees at a Serbian steel mill recently purchased by China's Steel and pledged China's support of Serbia joining the European Union. In Warsaw, President Xi and Polish President Andrzej Duda welcomed the arrival of a Chinese freight train showcasing the European country's importance as a gateway for Chinese exports. Poland is China's largest partner in Central and Eastern Europe. Some 40 deals were signed related to construction, energy and new technologies. China urged Poland to take advantage of its position as a founding member of the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. President Xi is wrapping up his tour in Uzbekistan with Uzbek President Islam Karimov. China and Uzbekistan upgraded their ties to a comprehensive strategic partnership. The two countries are working together on agriculture and energy projects. President Xi is in Tashkent for the start of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit. Joining us now from Beijing is Xu Hongjian. He's the director of the Department of European Studies at the China Institute of International Studies. Also with us in our Washington, D.C. studio is Mizohid Rakhimov. He's a visiting Fulbright scholar at the Central Asia Caucasus Institute in Washington. From Shanghai, we're joined by Alexius Li. He's the head of China Industrial Research at one of Asia's leading investment banks and follows China's One Belt, One Road initiative. We're also joined by Saurabh Gupta. He's a resident senior fellow at the Institute for China-America Studies right here in Washington, D.C. And thanks to all of you for joining us. Xu Hongjian, let me start with you, and let's start with President Xi Jinping's visit to Serbia. These two countries, of course, have been close allies for a very long time. President Xi said during that visit that he's looking to Serbia to play a significant role in Beijing's ambitious plan for a new Silk Road. Let's take a listen to some of what the president had to say.
With around 60 countries, China is realizing a project, One Belt, One Road, and cooperation with Central and Eastern Europe, including Serbia. Serbia finds itself in a strategically important position with advantages compared to other countries in the region, and will certainly play an important role in this project.
So, Xu Hongjian, how do you think Serbia will lead the way in this One Belt, One Road project?
Yeah, exactly. We can find out some reasons for the question why both China and Serbia regard Serbia will have a very leading role in this project. I mean, the Belt and Road Initiative. Firstly, I think that both two countries enjoyed this very, very long time and good relations. Just like Mr. Xi mentioned, it's a kind of a all-weather, relations or friendship. And of course, once there will be a very, very good political environment, so certainly there will be more confidence for both two countries to have some more cooperation in the future. And secondly, how about this geographic position of Serbia in this Belt and Road Initiative? Of course, Serbia is a very important Balkan state, and it could play a very, very, I think, big influence in this region, and also it's near to the Asia. So I think it could play as a bridge between Europe and Asia. And also, certainly, there will be some, very, very great requirement to join into this Belt and Road Initiative, especially in some infrastructure, transportation projects, because it's a, inland country. It needs some, exit to the sea.
Mayor, let's talk about Uzbekistan. Here's a country in Central Europe. It's just completed the longest rail tunnel in that part of the world. How does a project like the One Belt, One Road initiative fit in with what Uzbekistan is doing?
Well, we can look on from three perspectives. The first is Angred Power Railway. It is first of very important national project which is connecting the central part of the country with the Fergana Valley, which is 1/3 of population of Uzbekistan. But plus the railway is direct connecting the two regions, plus it goes through the high mountain region. And here it is a good example of how the Chinese and Uzbeks working together. The general project costs more than 1 billion, and 350 millions come from the China's Bank, and China companies created two tunnels. One of the tunnels is more than 10 miles, and it is one of the unique in Central Asia, in CIA countries. So this is important from national connectivity. Second is, it's very important for China, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan trade partnership. In this regard, of course, these links will be very important. And in third perspective, we can see there is continuation of Central Asia, China, and further partnership within other Asian and European countries. So this will be a very important link.
Right. Let's bring in Alex. He's in Shanghai. Alex, another important country that the president visited, Poland, which of course is a member of the European Union, and it's also a member of the Chinese-led Asia Infrastructure and Investment Bank. How important is Poland to China's One Belt, One Road initiative?
I think Poland plays a very important role in the entire One Belt, One Road, being one of the key destinations. There's also linking the Chinese-Asian market into the European market. So, yeah, I think Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank, AIIB, is definitely one of the key status to help fundings in that region. Yeah.
Surab, you know, everywhere that China is moving in the world right now, we hear about its involvement in infrastructure development. And looking at this particular visit by President Xi Jinping, are we likely to see China sign deals on a lot of infrastructure projects in Central Europe, in countries like Poland, in Uzbekistan and Serbia? Also, what does that tell us about how China is positioning itself in the region?
Yes, a lot of this has to do with infrastructure projects, big-ticket infrastructure projects. The Chinese are going about this in a very intelligent way. Let me take this debate in a slightly different direction. You know, Central Europe has been a location which has continuously, in some way or the other, being fought over. There are many political, historical fractures in that region. It was a locus of Cold War contestation, etc., etc. China isn't coming to Central. I'm talking Central Europe. China isn't coming to Central Europe as a party which is playing on old historical fault lines. It is seeing it as one compact unit and working with all countries on infrastructure projects to build connectivity so that they can all develop together and all prosper together. That says a lot about how China is going about its new model of international relations. And of course, Belt and Road and infrastructure and win-win cooperation is at the forefront of this. So I think from that perspective, it says a lot. Yes, big-ticket projects are happening, connectivity is happening, but that is not just happening in isolation. It is China trying to enter these markets and trying to be a promoter of stabilizing economic win-win solutions. And I think that is an important point to take away.
Right, Xu Hongjian, let's look at China's involvement, economic involvement in Poland. We have a country like Poland, which is very keen to increase its exports, especially agricultural exports to China. Those exports amounted to something like $2 billion last year. Now we have another situation which has developed where Russia has closed its doors to European food imports. So does this open further the market for China?
Yes, as we know, this Apple issue, I mean, more agricultural products exported to China from Poland is joint efforts by both two countries to deal with, firstly, how about this issue of trade imbalance between China and Poland. Because as we know, always it's a very big concern from Polish side is China needs to import more products from Poland. And of course, secondly, it's also a requirement from Polish side to look for some new market once there is no market in Russia and so on. But I think that firstly, we could not just depend on the apple or some other agricultural products to resolve this issue of trade imbalance between China and Poland. I think that maybe for some other sectors or other products, especially from Polish side, they need to have some more, products, some more capacity. And of course, secondly, I think once there are more and more agricultural products from Poland to China, certainly I think it's a good thing, I think, for China, for Chinese market, because as we know, now Chinese market as possible. But of course, I also need to remind something is, firstly, we need to take care of how these relations between those imported Polish apples and the local agricultural products.
Right.
And also, secondly, how is this competition between in Chinese market? Because as we know, now we can also taste American apple in Beijing.
Yeah.
So I think that certainly for Polish side, they need to have some, high quality agricultural products in China.
Okay. Mir, if we look at Poland, China's involvement in Poland, its investments in Poland, Poland, of course, is a member of the European Union. Does China see more benefits in investing directly into a country like Poland rather than going through the structures of the European Union in Brussels?
Actually, international relation perspective, bilateral relation all the time very effective, much easy to do. Of course, China is pursuing its long and old tradition to have good relation, long relation with all countries of the world. And Poland is not exception, Central Asian country is not exception. In this regard, we could say that in particular from Central Asia perspective, Central Asia and China has a long historical and present very active political economic dialogue. So in this case, of course, sometimes bilateral relation more effective. The same policy pursued by Uzbekistan to have all the time try to approach bilateral relation, which is much easier to do without all these formalities.
Alex, China now has one of the biggest railway manufacturing companies in the world, and that company has a very strong focus on exports. How competitive has China become in the development of railway infrastructure in the countries of Central Europe?
Well, if you ask me about the railway investment, I would say that China probably is currently in the world the best railway construction consortiums is all in China. So if you look at the entire framework of how much railway rollouts, how many kilometers have been rolled out over the last 20 years, I think 90% of that is all in China. In terms of the train system and also the train capital goods equipment, China probably does not or is still 5-10 years away from the world's best technology, but is catching up really quickly, because that's where we have seen dramatic implementation, maintenance, and real hands-on the rail projects in China. So right now, if you ask me, I think China probably would be able to offer the best in class in terms of construction and probably very valuable money in terms of the train system that it can provide.
Saurabh, we know that China is transitioning to a new economic model right now, one that is based more on consumers in China rather than manufacturing and exports. How does China's global investment strategy complement that new domestic economic model?
Yes, it complements it from the perspective that currently there is in many of these sectors in China overcapacity. And it does make sense, particularly with that overcapacity and with the technology and with the operationalization skill that the Chinese have to take these goods, to take these products overseas and export them. So from that sense, it's a perfect fit. I would hesitate, though, to put too much emphasis on this. This is not just a strategy just to take care of overcapacity in domestic industries. This has much more broader, well thought out ramifications and connotations from the Chinese end. And as I had previously mentioned, the whole purpose of win-win cooperation is at the forefront of President Xi's model of not just major power relations, but just broader international relations. And from this perspective, I think these strategies fit hand in glove.
Okay, we need to take a break right now. Next, we'll discuss expectations for this year's summit of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Stay with us, you're watching The Heat. Welcome back to The Heat. Chinese President Xi Jinping is wrapping up his Central and Eastern European tour in Uzbekistan. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization opens its annual summit Thursday in Tashkent. This year, the group is expected to extend membership to India and Pakistan in what would be its first expansion in 15 years. Let's get back to our panel. And Xu Hongjian, before we get to the expansion plans of the SCO, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, remind us of how and why this organization was initially formed.
Yeah, exactly. As we know, as a security group, even since from its origin, and the SCO played a very, very important role in this region. But now, of course, because now already 15th anniversary, so undoubtedly there will be some expectation from this region to SCO. Especially this time, it's a first extension, and it will have some new member states like India and Pakistan, which means that not only the SCO is just focusing on Central Asia region, but now, of course, there are some other region like South Asia. But of course, now SCO is facing some security challenges, including how could the members together to deal with some we call it the three evil forces, and also how to work together to fight against terrorism, and especially now this time, once there are new member states like India and Pakistan, maybe the other new task is how could SCO to help India and Pakistan to deal with some troubles between them. So I think it will give a very, very big test for SCO in the future.
Right, Saurabh, there is the prospect of India and Pakistan joining the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. And as I said, it would be the first expansion. How important is that?
Oh, I think it's very, very important. And particularly from the perspective, let me give you a narrow answer, just in terms of India and Pakistan and their troubles and their problems, and in context of the SCO. The SCO is not going to provide as such a platform or a forum formally to solve these issues, but it is an incredibly good opportunity for the Indian Prime Minister and the Pakistani Prime Minister to meet up definitely and repeatedly every year at SCO and have private conversations. The few times in the past 10 years when there has been some hope, it's been a difficult decade in terms of India-Pakistan relations. There have been terrorist attacks, etc., etc. The one time there has been a little bit of hope is when there have been private dialogues on the sidelines of these meetings, these bilaterals of immense value. It's one-on-one without delegations, and I think from that perspective, it can be very, very helpful. And of course, there will be larger issues which will also be discussed, like Afghanistan, etc., especially with the US drawdown and all out there. And both India and Pakistan have very interest in Afghanistan, but they do. So if there can be some degree of harmonization of their strategies vis-a-vis Afghanistan so that these don't spill over into India-Pakistan relations. And SCO provides all these, the platform where this sort of bilateral dialogues can happen on the sidelines. So it's very important.
Right. Mir, looking at one of the other roles of the SCO, how does the organization help its member states to counter a common threat that Xu Hongjian was talking about just now, the common threat of terrorism, radicalism, and potential instability in the region?
Well, one of the main goals SCO is providing stability and increasing military and security partnership between the member countries. And for the last 15 years, there was a number of conception was accepted, a number of agreements, including the counter-terroristic center was founded in Tashkent. and all measures in trying to some joint action toward all the challenges and security challenges, which including issue of Afghanistan. And now Afghanistan has a observer status within the SCO, and plus it makes all countries previous that they are mostly working individually toward the Afghanistan, supporting reconstruction. Actually, all the SCO members are participating in reconstruction in Afghanistan. And now there will be more platform for joint activity to supporting the reconstruction and stability supporting within the Afghanistan, which is, of course, very important. But here, not only important the increasing of India-Pakistan relation, but also between the Afghanistan and Pakistan, too. So in this regards, of course, extending partnership will be very useful. And plus, all these communication projects, some of them will through the Afghanistan, will connect it Central Asia and South Asia. Of course, definitely make positive impact on the stabilization of Afghanistan and all member countries, too. But there are many, many challenges, including so-called Islamic State challenges, which is, of course, very, very in the region, which is need to more coordination and partnership between SCO countries and plus other countries, too.
Alex, there has been some criticism of the SCO from some quarters, and that criticism concerns the fact that it is struggling to become a stronger entity and that it lacks coherence. Do you think these criticisms are valid?
Well, I think for the criticism, there is some the hindrance to the development over the last few years, but we think that things will be moving better forward. So from where we are right now, like I mentioned before previously, this is a good platform for things to actually advance from here, rather than just a backward looking at where it has been hindered before.
So if we could get back to India's possible membership of the SCO. Here we have a country which has got a very high GDP growth. It's about the highest in the world among developing countries, 7.5%. But the one thing India doesn't have is energy. It needs to import a lot of its energy. How does its membership of the SCO give it an opportunity to expand its relationship with those energy-producing countries which are in that organization?
There is a possibility, but I would say the possibility is somewhat more remote. India, Pakistan, Turkmenistan, and Afghanistan have been in conversations with regard to a pipeline which will go all the way through these countries and end up in India and pipe gas to India. Obviously, this requires a great deal of stabilization along the way, particularly in Afghanistan. Separate from India, Pakistan also is an energy-starved country, and it's got a huge population, and it has had some arrangements with regard to hydroelectric power from Kyrgyzstan, and which will again pass along the grid and will come to Pakistan. So there is scope for energy cooperation, but I would hesitate to say that this is something which will take off in a big way. We first need we need greater political stabilization in this area, and perhaps down the line, this should be something which the party should aspire for. I mean, China gets a lot of its oil, a fair share of its oil and gas from Central Asia, aside from Russia, and India has aspired to that also. But there are, at this point of time, still geopolitical difficulties with accessing it.
Okay, Xu Hongjian, when we look at the possible accession of India and Pakistan to the SCO, will it in any way change the nature of the organization? Because we know that China had been opposed to India's membership for a very long time.
I don't think it's just from Chinese side to, to be hesitant about this, application of membership from India, because as we know, the so-called principle of SCO is a kind of, consultation or discussing equity. So I don't think it's just from Chinese side. And also, of course, certainly, just like I mentioned, that once there is a first extension and some new member states, I think it will take some time for all of the member states to get along with each other, to know more something about how is the mindset, how is the strategy, how is the concern from each side. But of course, I do believe that once SCO insists it's called separate of SCO, or kind of Shanghai consensus. Certainly there will be I think a good development for this organization. Of course, At the same time, there are more and more challenges ahead.
I just want to get back to a point you raised a moment ago, and that is the continuing violence in Afghanistan, the threat of terrorism that comes from there as well. How does a group like the SCO jointly deal with this threat?
Well, this is a very global issue, and for Central Asia is particularly very important. We have an Uzbek language proverb which says, "Your neighbor stable, you are stable." So Afghanistan, in all Central Asia countries, particularly Uzbekistan, preserve very friendly relation to Afghanistan, trying to support stabilization and reconstruction. Of course, there are a number of projects how can be done, but the first of need, of course, political stabilization in Afghanistan. In all member, actually, it will be surrounded already by SCO countries, and also SCO countries is supporting, and they will be also extending this support the Afghanistan or reconstruction and supporting its military capabilities. But for probably it will be a long process stabilization in Afghanistan. First, it needs stabilization, political stabilization. Second, a more slowly development, economic and infrastructure development, because the region was interconnected, which is make the economic life more better. And of course, the need should be clear strategy toward Afghanistan, and let's allows the Afghani people to create their own society, their own country, and all other countries just can support by different ways. This is the best way, I think. The peaceful, the transformation of Afghanistan toward the more peaceful society.
Alex, very quickly, we've just got a few seconds left. With the withdrawal of US and NATO forces from Afghanistan, do you see a bigger role for the SCO in that country?
Yes, of course. We believe that it is pretty obvious that we think that in future the SCO will play a much bigger role in not just Afghanistan but also in the Central Asia region.
Okay, and that's where we have to leave it. Thanks to all of you for joining us. That's it for this edition of The Heat. I'm Anand Naidu in Washington, D.C. Thanks for being with us.